I'm Jennifer Houlihan, Executive Director of Austin Music People, and we have gathered a group of advocates and activists for the music community to take a stand against pay-to-play. It's a predatory practice. It's not one that's welcome in our city, and we're going on record, and we're asking the Music Commission to join us. The leadership of the city is aware that this is going on in our community, and we're not welcoming it. We're not endorsing it. You're on notice. Is it going to stop 100%? Of course not. There are weeds in every garden, and maybe a couple of folks get routed out. There are going to be two more where that came from. But we don't have to let it take over the way it took over LA. We don't have to let it take over the way that it took over Denver. We've got AMF working on this. We have the Urban Artists Alliance working on this, putting programs together. We're trying to work on this on multiple channels. This is symbolic for the Music Commission to make a principled statement about this and be the first city in the country that goes on record and says, we know at the highest level about this practice. It's not some little secret you guys are hiding. We know about it and we don't like it. So that's what we're asking for tonight, not necessarily a website or anything else. Tonight, we want a statement. To speak more about this issue, I'd like to introduce Ternia Johnson, founder of the Urban Artists Alliance and based here in Austin, member of the Texas Grammys Board of Governors, and a very successful recording artist and producer in his own right.
How you guys doing? Good, thanks. As Jennifer said, times have changed in Austin music, where it used to be venues got bands and really helped the band grow, like Antone's and other places where they would find you, say you had some talent and put you on stage. The times now are where venues are giving their space to promoters who are going out, sending out emails, finding bands and saying, hey, I really think you're really good, you know, per se, so why don't you pay me to let you show other people how good you are, is what it comes down to. So you have these artists who are paying money in hopes of being seen, in hopes of getting discovered, in hopes of building a base to a promoter who really could care less. So pay to play is really damaging to an artist who wants to grow and develop and feel that they have that opportunity taken from them. As I can give you a scenario, if you have a 9-year-old kid who gets an instrument and they learn that craft and they work on it for years, and then they get 15 or 20 and they're ready to perform, and the promoter says, hey, you're really good, pay me some money and I'll put you on the stage. The young artists might not have those funds to do that. They might not have equated that into the bigger picture that they would need to pay somebody to perform. So their dream is shattered, it's ended, it's done. Or you could have a 9-year-old who gets an instrument, who learns that craft, who comes across a promoter later in their life, who says, you're really good, I'm going to give you a stage. And not only that, but I'm going to pay you to perform. So that kid builds up their confidence, they build up their desire to grow, and they can go on and put out 20 albums, sell 100,000 copies, and eventually be on the board of the governors. I'm that kid. So pay to play is not a good thing. It hurts the community. It'll hurt all of us in the long run, and it definitely should be ran up out of Austin. Thank you.
The next speaker is Adam Protexter.
Hello there. How are you doing? My name is Adam Protexter. I'm an artist, promoter, and a community organizer within the Austin, Texas hip-hop scene primarily. In 2012, I co-founded the Austin Mic Exchange, which is a nonprofit open mic aimed at giving artists, especially young and inexperienced artists in the hip-hop community, a place to come and perform, try out their new material, and network with their peers in an effort so that they might continue to find opportunities. So I moved to Austin in 2008. I'm an artist myself, and I am no stranger to the frustrations and often paralyzing sense of I don't know who to talk to when it comes to finding your first show or starting in a new city. Especially if you've never performed before, period, not to mention people who have just never performed before in Austin. So to understand the nature of why pay-to-play is such a venomous, poisonous practice to the young artist, you kind of have to understand exactly why it appeals to the young artist, because it's playing off this desperation. And so I believe that our goal here should be first and foremost to not only educate those young artists on realistic and concrete options they have to begin and develop that career, but to create those options for them. So if you imagine you're that person, you get an email, and this still happens regularly to me despite the fact that I've been performing and playing and being paid for it for many years now. Receive an email and it'll say, would you like to open for either, this big headliner, or would you like to just play a show, period. And as Jennifer noted, usually comes in the form of, once you say yes, then they either ask you for a lump sum that's paid to source the show. Usually their reasoning behind that is that they're paying to finance the opener that you'll be performing alongside, so you're investing in your future, in their language. Then, of course, the other side of it is the ticketing scam, which Jennifer also pointed out, where artists are usually asked to give all, or at least 80 upwards percent of the number of tickets they sold, that revenue back to the promoter. So I really see this as a twofold problem. One is it's the predatory tactics of it. These serve to scare young artists into believing that this is their only option. The language used in these emails is really, I'm your only friend, sort of, because I understand, I've been around the block, so I understand that I don't need to take these shows for my career to have some sort of forward momentum. But I also, still at this point in my career, if I talk to those promoters and tell them, no, I don't want to play your show, I'm not going to pay you $300 for that slot, the response that I still get is kind of along the lines of, well, someone else will, sorry you don't have the hustle. And it usually comes down, that's why I think that recognizing the predatory aspect of it is important, because there really is this giant guilt, you need me in order to move ahead thing that is playing on young, naive artists who don't realize that that's not the case. I, again, want to stress that I think education of those artists and creation of new opportunities for them, as well as rewarding people who practice fair trade business practices in the venue and promoter circuit, is tantamount to creating a better world for young artists to come up in. Thank you.
I'm an Austin native who moved back here over a year ago after a 12-year hiatus, with excitement for the return to the wealth of live music offered here after the deprivation of living in a state that offers very little to that end. I've been to many shows since my move back here, and I've found distinct differences in the rock and hip-hop organizational techniques. When I go to a locally stocked rock show, there are 4 to 5 bands on a bill, 25 to 45-minute sets. The styles are somewhat similar and give a feeling of fluidity throughout the show. A packed house and genuine excitement permeates the atmosphere. When I go to some locally stocked hip-hop shows, there are 15 to 25 acts on a bill, 5 to 15-minute sets, a haphazard mix of styles that don't offer any fluidity at all, giving the feel of staccato cacophony, and a house packed full of other artists just milling around, waiting for their turn. I've spoken with some fans that have arrived early for major name headliners, and they wanted to support the locals going on first, but felt their time was being wasted. And state that they'll never go to a show for a major headliner early again because the locals just aren't worth it. You can sit and watch fans pay their cover, walk in, have one drink, and leave. I've even seen some ask for a refund of their cover. In this scenario, everyone loses. It reflects on the acts that crash and burn because they aren't ready, and the venue the most, as the average fan doesn't realize the promoters are in charge, not the venue. When I bring up pay-to-play and mixed company, i.e. rock and hip-hop artists, the rock artists are quick to say, why would anyone do that? Why would you do that? The hip-hop artists tend to defend the practice as a marketing technique or an advertising opportunity, or that's just the way it is now. All lines fed to them by predatory promoters cashing their checks while offering them little more than making a Facebook event and giving them tickets to sell. Bottom line is fans aren't going to stay if the talent is subpar. This takes money out of the venue's hands, as if the fans don't stay, the drinks aren't being sold. If the venue puts on a few of these shows, they'll be known for hosting poorly run shows with recklessly selected talent. This is what pay to play looks like to a fan. Thank you for your time.
The person who had implemented the pay-to-play scam had harassed them, told them that they were stupid for not doing it, and tried to make it so that they could make their life hell if they don't buy into it. And then also told them that, you know, that it's going to come back to them. They're going to tell other promoters, and they won't be able to get shows. So some sort of neutral entity that could receive these complaints and investigate them without the identities of some of these people being revealed, if they feel uncomfortable with that, would enable more action to happen, because then, you know, it'd be an ethical thing that could be explored by, you know, either a law group, or kind of like what you guys were talking about, the busking thing. Like, I think it's great that there's a resource where people can call you. You know, I mean, it's something similar to that. And we'd also spoken too about, like, the same way that restaurants get rating systems, so you know, like, this restaurant got an A+ on its health certificate, whereas the last time the other restaurant got a C. It's not really it lets you know that that place might deserve your business more. Something that kind of like has the city authorization to say that this is a place that is an A+ venue for these reasons, whereas this venue has not received the same rating. Something similar to that is kind of what we have been talking about.
So hypothetically, if there was this organization that took these complaints, then what? Are they going to talk to the venue?
Well, you have to do that if you're investigating whether or not it's true. Of course, you have to talk to the venue.
No, but I'm saying, like, how
Business,
far does it
y'all,
go further? It doesn't, it just,
The music office.
It goes back to Rich's point about transparency. Somebody comes and says, Club X, I think they're doing a pay-to-play scam.
An issue, sort of a kind of a sort of a devious business practice, that is certainly not sort of as an industry, but however, we can kind of decide that after the fact. And then just kind of encourage artists to understand, to get empowered and sort of understand the economics of a show, and recommend that they use the Austin Music Foundation as a resource for more information.
Yeah, for education and guidance.
Maybe encourage the music community to help educate.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Retweet it.
I think there's a great AMF thing coming up that they do called Leaders in Music that would also be great for them to take some of this too and talk about it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? No. Okay, so Rich, will you work with Stephanie to write up a draft of that?
Sure.
In the next day or so. Jennifer?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When artists go out and sell tickets to their own shows, it's compromising the integrity of the craft. They don't have time to rehearse. They don't have time to focus on the art. And it lowers their credibility in the industry when they're the ones out there selling tickets to their show. That's what we are supposed to be for.
That's right, at 25-minute slots. That show was, I got there early and it was solid from the first act to the last act. And that was it. And all of them got paid. All of them got paid, you know why? Because their quality was already there. They didn't have to sell tickets. They didn't have to beg people to come to their show. They already had the headliner to bring folks.
Like for a full band, I mean, we have an 8-person band. If you have 50, 60 people to the show, that's a good show. If you're a one-person act and you're trying to get that same amount of people, that's asking way too much. And that's where it gets into excruciating circumstances where you gotta like sell tickets and get all that stuff. That stuff works, but if you're the one booking and you're the one promoting, once you get split up, you gotta like figure out, look at those contracts. Get a contract.
No, we have.
You don't know how to write a contract?
And
Go through all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
You have a set fee in mind. Something you can go down from, but never try to push up from. Like if somebody says, I want to book her, you say, if somebody goes to you and say, she'll rock for 500. They'll say, well, okay, well, I can only give you 250. That's more than what you would have got if you would have sold tickets.
Yep.